We're at the home of everything Frederick. I'm with Courtney and Zach, Groundswell MMA. You guys have now been on your own for 2.5 years?
Over 2 years,
Yeah.
about 2.5 years.
Yeah, so you were telling me you were working in affiliation with Soldier Fits.
Danny Farrar is a great friend of mine. I coached him and his co-owner Dave Posen for a fight, and years later they had Soldier Fit up and running. They had an open spot next door, and I was about to move on to another career, and so they said, hey, come on in. We got this space. We want to do a martial arts spot. You can run it, and it'll go awesome. And so I managed that for about 8 years. It was the Fort MMA. That's where I met my wife.
He met you there?
Yeah, but he didn't actually, I told him I wanted to take jujitsu, and he didn't believe me. So that was in 2013. I ended up training in Germantown at the school he got his black belt from.
Wait a minute.
Found out.
After you said...
She said she wanted to try jiu-jitsu, and I was like, I don't think she knows. We're choking each other out. Well, she'll come in if she really wants to do it. And I didn't follow up right away, and she went somewhere else.
As you should have.
I went to his instructor, Master Mike Moses at Evolve.
I love it.
And then a year later, he realized that I was serious.
How did you guys return?
My favorite rolling partners, jiu-jitsu partners, was his sister, Jenny.
Nice.
And she's like, oh my gosh, you would love my brother. And I was like, who's your brother? She's like, Zach Davis. I was like, that guy did not want me to train.
Isn't the universe a crazy, crazy
We were meant to be together.
That is amazing.
So it was just time after about 8 years to either do my own thing. And so I was going to do that. And then we worked out a deal to purchase the program. Nice. And so then we rebranded it, and it's really taken off now that it's its own thing. It's got its legs under it, and I was able to get my wife involved there.
Yeah.
So now she's co-owner with me, and it's really helped it like quadruple in size.
Yeah. What were you doing before?
So I loved martial arts. I got my college degree. There's always time to work later. Mm-hmm. I can always do that, but I can only do this for now. So I started pouring all my time and energy into martial arts, and I was just living broke and competing, and it was just like I don't know. It reminds me of like a starving artist or a rock band trying to make it.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a long time. And every time I was like, all right, it's time to move on. Get just at that point where there's a breakthrough. So eventually I got to compete professionally. I got to compete with the UFC as a reality show, The Ultimate Fighter. So there's all these cool opportunities. And eventually I did have to stop because I tore my retina. And the doctors were like...
3 times.
Yeah. So then that's when I was like, okay, do I want to be a police officer? I actually ended up even taking classes to be air traffic control.
Oh, wow.
So
Insurance sales.
I did insurance sales. So I was kind of like putting my foot into like the real world, and it sucks. I hope nobody is out there.
Yeah.
And that's when Danny Farrar actually talked to me. He saw me doing this. He's like, what are you selling insurance? You do air traffic control? You're supposed to be teaching martial arts. So he was a big inspiration because he's an entrepreneur, and he saw there was an opportunity. So he started up the Fort MMA. We did that for a while, and that ran its course. I learned a lot from how they run their business. When it came time to do our own thing, I knew a lot more, and I was able to kind of hit the ground running. And it's been very fruitful. It's been very fun. It's good to see how much you might not like other things too.
Oh, for sure.
Sometimes
That's what your 20s are for.
And but don't get twisted. He was very scared to step out on his own. So
most martial arts schools, they're run by guys like me, having some level of corporate oversight. And actually, she's also an executive coach, which really works well because I have a live-in executive coach with me all the time. So she's able to in a kind way
guide you,
notice my weakness,
guide you.
I offer observation.
And gently coach me into a better way, which is a pretty good balance.
Well,
how do you do it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
The reality show. How was that?
It's fantastic. For me, I always did martial arts just because I was such a big fan of it. I loved watching the sport. I loved everything about it. I loved it. Culture. I went on trips to go to the countries where these martial arts were from. So I was like all sold in on the adventure of martial arts. Yeah. And being able to do that was, I don't know, it's kind of like the crowning piece of that adventure. There were like world champions that were helping coach us. It was cool for me because I realized how much I loved it because there was a lot of other athletes there. And we'd have a day where they'd be like, hey, you guys, we can chill at the house or we can train. And most of them were like, hey, we like to take the day off and rest a little bit. And I was like, you have 3 UFC champions going to show you some drills and work with you, and you're going to stay home? Like, and I just realized, obviously, a lot of people don't have the passion for it the way I did.
Something else.
Well, can we take a step back, and you have to share with Danny the process you went through to apply?
So they do open auditions, right? You got to go to Manhattan. The weight class is 170. If you want to do it, show up. And so I was like, yeah, like who's coming with me? And so there are a lot of people that don't volunteer. When you get there, it's just mayhem. It's like 200 guys with a duffel bag. They have you come in the conference room tryout, and they just let you spar. And nobody checked your weight. Nobody did a medical. Nobody did anything. And they're like, all right, you two, go for a minute. And just in martial arts, a minute is like a drag race. That is like a full sprint. Like, I'm going to fight in front of, the people who could determine my future as an interview for 1 minute. And that's just mayhem. And so I remember one time I got kicked in the face, and it was probably the worst black eye I'd ever had in this 1 minute round. And then I ended up getting the guy down and doing a choke on him. I was like, yes, this is it. And so I walk out to go to the bathroom to clean myself up, and the conference room next to us had been rented out for someone's wedding. And so I'm coming out, pouring blood out of my face, trying to clean up. I'm so excited. And there's people in tuxedos just like, what the hell's going on next door? Those are kind of the ways to get in. And if you show up and you do the things and you're confident enough to answer questions, that was probably the hardest.
When you're authentic, is that one producer?
Once you show, you're like, okay, you're competent. And they whittle it down. So 200 comes down to like 50. Then they do an interview. And the interview, like, I think probably that for a lot of these particularly tough guys might be the hardest thing. What am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
But that was very easy. And I remember I met Dana White, the owner of UFC. I shook his hand.
Loved him.
I went down the line, and one of the producers, I went to shake his hand. He said, sit the F down. Who the F for you? And then I was like, Zach Davis. I went to the University of Maryland. I grew up with here. I just started walking through. And I think they probably really liked it that I could just talk for a reality show. So like, all right, he can fight enough. He came out here. He's talking to the producers. And so it just worked very well. And then...
But you didn't get it. And then the next time you
got to bring up that negative. That was the first time.
The first time. Well, I think this is important because it shows resilience. And you're like, the resilience is what is key for, especially kids. It's like, I think they see people like you and they're like,
I think you've gotten it. Yes,
every time. There's never been failure.
Yeah. So that was, I think, because they do it by your weight class. Yeah. So 170 was up. I don't know what year it was, but they said, all right, all the guys are 170, show up. And I was the alternate. So they flew me out to Vegas a few times. I did the medicals, but nobody got injured. So I didn't get to do it that year.
Gotcha.
So then I left brokenhearted.
Yeah. Went through the whole thing again.
Kept training. And then, a few years later, I think like 2 years later, they were like, oh, they're going to do the show again. And this time it's 170 again. So I went out and they already remembered me. And then it ended up working out. When I first went, I was just kind of like heart and enthusiasm, and I just loved it. And by the time I came back, I was like a much more seasoned martial artist.
It's really important for kids to understand, especially when they see these people, influencers or whatever, seem to go from nothing to here. They don't understand what it took down here to get to there.
It's failing up.
Failing up. Well, yeah.
Failing up. I think they're like, everyone sees failure as like,
that's it. It's the end. It's the end of the road.
Well,
no.
How did it help you?
Yeah.
Like, what did you learn from it?
In order to get where you're going, you have to fail. You're never going to get there without that.
Yeah.
We deal with a lot of kids' parents at the school where parents don't, and it's from love, they don't want their kids to hurt so badly that they will, a lot of times, come up with an excuse for the child. Right. Oh,
blame
you know what?
Somebody else.
It's because they were so much taller than you. Or because
the belt, they have a different belt than you.
Yeah. Or they knew the coach or this or that.
Yeah.
Because that takes all the accountability away from the child.
Right.
And then you're just a victim of circumstance versus having some agency where you're like, okay, I can control this. These are the things I control. These are the things I'm going to do. And then they get back in there. Yeah. And it's so tempting to give your kid an out. you didn't fail. It's the coaches didn't see you.
Yeah.
I think they already like that kid more.
Yeah.
You also take the adventure away from the child when you don't let them struggle.
And control.
Yeah, because this
Control, you're removing all the control. Now what they think is everyone else is in control of my destiny, right?
The world is happening to me.
The world is. I work with a rather than I have control of everything I do. Now, do you always win? No, of course not. But to know when you fail, hey, I have control to pick this up and keep.
I work with a lot of adults who their parents didn't allow them to struggle.
Yeah.
And now as adults, they are so afraid to do anything because they don't know how to struggle. They don't know the benefits of it and that you can actually overcome.
Yeah.
So struggle is it's a blessing.
Yeah.
And protecting your kids from failure, because and I've talked with some of the young adults we have that they are so they've always won, they've always done well, and so now they're nervous because they don't know if they can. They're so nervous to fail because they haven't had that opportunity, which is weird to think of as an opportunity that you should be cut from a team.
Learn a lot about yourself.
You should get booed off stage once. You should,
Yeah.
Give up the game-winning play.
Yeah.
And so if you see those, then you're like, hey, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I'm okay.
Martial arts, I know, is great for kids to help develop social skills, confidence. Do you find that with some of the kids that you work with?
Kind of with the adults.
I was just saying, I was like, our program about half adults, right? And the kids, certainly. The adults, some of them kind of missed those opportunities as kids.
Yeah.
They wanted to have those opportunities they wanted to struggle.
Test themselves.
And so to work their way up, all of a sudden, now they're learning, oh, maybe I am more capable of things that I didn't think I was able to.
Well, we know a lot of adults that come in with pretty significant trauma.
Yeah. Oh, I don't doubt it.
And it's like it's almost like a meditative relief because you literally cannot think about the stuff happening in your life because you're focused on not getting punched in the face or choked out. It's like I
little bit.
focus on all this other stuff because I don't want I got to protect my arm.
How can people reach out to you guys to find out about the program, check out the gym? What's the easiest way?
I mean, easiest way, our website, groundswellmma.com. We have a lead form there.
Yeah.
Me or one of the team will call out to you guys and set up free intro. Come check it out. We're super excited to have new people. A lot of people are like, oh, do I already need to know martial arts?
Nope.
That's what white belt is all about. We're like, that's why there's a white belt.
GroundswellMMA.com. Go hang out with Courtney and Zach. I'll be there just hanging out just to watch what's happening over there.
We're going to get her in. We're going to get her in.
Check them out. And we wish you guys all the success. And I know you'll have many, many years of it. So
Thank you.
thank you guys for watching.